Dokie. We are back once again. It is hot. It is really hot
It is
here in
very
the
hot
desert.
now.
You know how it is. It's summertime here. Things are heating up outside. The sun is out. We are back for another episode of Laying It Down with Big D. I, of course, am your host, Big D, and today I'm joined by VividDarkFPS. How much do you play a lot of FPS?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, recently I've gotten addicted to PoE too, but that's a different story.
That seems to have taken the gaming world by storm for sure. So, well, anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm freaking great. It's like I said, it's hot outside and my AC struggles to keep up with it on these really hot summer days, but I'm grateful I have AC and I have a roof over my head, so can't complain too much. And
Indeed, yeah.
yeah, well, let me ask you this. We know you are the community director for Limitless, correct?
I believe the formal title is community manager, and I'm not the only
Manager.
one. I'm just the newest addition in like the CS side of things.
Okay. Well, and people may also recognize you as the partner of professional Counter-Strike player Hexed as well.
Yes, that is true. That's
I
my
think that,
boyfriend.
yeah, and this is going on during the recording of the major, so we'll ask you about how things were handled from your perspective during the downfall of NRG last week. But I want to first ask you what is a community manager?
So, to my understanding, the community manager for any esports org is to really build a sense of, well, community, build a sense of closeness between the people that enjoy the org and what it's about, as well as like the org itself. So, just kind of like making that group feel a little closer in this vast online space.
You guys are the glue bringing all of us lost souls together.
Just trying to, doing our best.
Well, and have you worked exclusive? How did you get started in? Let's go back a little bit here. How did you get started in esports? Like, what's your earliest memories of esports, and then how did you wind up falling in love with Counter Strike?
So the very first esport I was a part of was actually in Team Fortress 2, TF2. I was playing on a Highlander team back in my college days. I'm now like many years from graduated from college, so it was a while ago. Uh, so I started with Team Fortress 2. I like really loved the game back then when I first got into it, and then I sought out to start playing for a team, got on a Highlander team, but then the esports side of TF2 was crumbling at the time and a lot of changes to the game were being added, so the overall community really fell apart. Now I do see occasionally I like just like check in on TF2 and see how it's going, but it's like the sixes and fours, which are two other like ways of competing, I guess, in TF2 are still alive. I can still see tournaments for them, but Highlander really died. It's a very unique game mode where so there's 9 classes of characters in TF2, and so it's a 9v9. You got to have one of each class.
Oh,
Um,
what?
mhm,
I want to play that game mode. Never heard of that. That sounds sick.
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
hmm and then so after TF2, I shifted into playing Overwatch, the 1 edition. Got really into that. Almost started playing in like the beer league, I guess is what you would call it. Like it's kind of like the CSC but of Overwatch back then.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, CSC is a CS like beer league. Stands for Counter Strike Confederation. Basically, is where anyone who wants to go from like matchmaking play into like a slightly competitive style, like you're focusing on learning positions and roles and like strats, anti-strats, and everything like that. But it's still a class-based shooter like TF2 was. So the shift wasn't too difficult. I was just really into learning my role because your roles are defined by what characters you play. And then but I had to put that down because I'd started working at the time and I was not this was like at the end of college. I got my first jobs and I was starting to work and I didn't really have the time to commit to going to prac and keeping up with my team. So I was like, I'm sorry guys, I can't. So backed off of that, and then I think I had a bit of a hiatus from gaming for a while because I was just so much into work. Um then I got back into kind of started playing TFT, but I was like, I can't really compete in this because they keep changing. Like every season, they change the characters, items, metas, and stuff. So it would have to be like relearning the game every time. Um, uh, TFT's team fight tactics. It's like a subdivision auto chess style of League of Legends. And then from there, some of my IRL friends actually was like, hey, you should really play CS2. And this was, it was CSGO at the time. And this was 5 years ago. And I know this because randomly, while I was in like Dallas or Austin, I checked my account and I got the 5 year coin and I didn't even realize. But that was when I first downloaded CS:GO, and like I had it open, so I guess it counted for the 5 year coin. But I wasn't like really playing it. I might have like just downloaded it, opened it once, and I think I remember telling my friend, I was like, I don't get it. This game is so hard. Like, how do people see? I was playing on a laptop at the time too. How do
Mm.
people see what they're shooting? Like, you have to be like pixel perfect with headshots, and that is crazy to me. It's like insanely mechanical compared to the others that I've been playing at the time. Uh, it's like what I would refer to as from the class-based shooters as like hit scan only, because in the class-based shooters you'll have like people like Soldier, Farah, quite a few other characters in the other games where their weapons are projectiles or they operate a different way or they have like functional abilities to their weapons. Like for example, my TF2 main, the character that I played in the team was engineer. So I had a projectile weapon that would heal my sentry gun or
Right.
move it. I could literally like just grab my sentry, pick it up, and just reposition everything, reposition my whole setup. So yeah. Uh, then I stopped playing CS:GO after like doing it once. Kind of kept getting ropes back into it by my friends, and then eventually I started playing consistently with them. Just casually, like MM mostly. I was like maybe 400 hours into the game, maybe less, when they convinced me to start playing Face It. So my Face It account is actually kind of like a hallmark of when I actually started like really getting into CS:GO. Um, like the age on my Face It account. Um, and so I was playing Face It and MMs with my friends, and then they showed me that they were starting to play ESEA. They made a team together, and so I was looking through all the teams on ESEA, and I saw that there were some women teams, like women only teams. And then somehow I had found out that they were trying to go for Impact League, which was just starting out at the time. So from there, I got into, um, I think I was officially a sub for one of the teams that was in season 1 of Impact. And I think they also made season 2, but then like kind of like season 2, 3-ish of Impact, I like fell out of it. Or like I was like team hopping, the usual um NXDS scene things. Team hopping and didn't quite make it like into the actual season later.
But you were a part of the Impact League at the beginning.
Yes, from the very beginning, I have been like involved in Impact. Although, if you were to try to look me up online, it wouldn't really show because subs aren't really listed anywhere. But I still went to practice. I still studied demos, reviews, like did my own individual practice, and tried to improve myself for the sake of getting into like a good strong team again. But I was compared to everyone else was on teams and everyone else who is currently on teams in Impact. My knowledge of the game was not very deep at the time, and even now at like 3,000 hours in, I think CS2 and CS:GO kind of like merged their hours, so I'll say like
Yeah.
3,000 hours in CS overall. It's not very deep. Like I remember my IGL at the time in the very first team, she had been playing since Cal I, or maybe even before that, which is apparently
Who
like one
was
of
it?
the she's changed her handles a few times. Let me think.
It's not Reef-tastic, is it?
No, it's not Reef. Reef was on Hot Flash back then. So I like we knew of each other for like all that while. Um, I'm trying to remember. I cannot remember right now because like she's also changed her handles like many times, so it's a little hard to tell. But yeah, if you like, if someone were to show me her account again, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's her, like Insta.
That's wild.
I think she's now, can't remember, but she's with a different org in CS, like org-ish situation set up in CS now. But she's always been like super gung-ho about getting women in that play CS into playing like esports style, so like getting into Impact and things like that.
Well,
So in a sense, she was almost like a community manager because she was like always trying to get people together, get like 10 women's going, um getting scrims and like introducing novices into a more competitive style of playing.
I think that's really cool. Well, and I pardon me if I ask this question wrong, because I don't think that being a woman makes you representative for all women by any means. But as a woman, how important are like women's only spaces and leagues within esports for you?
You'll probably have heard this many times from many female pros, but it is really crucial for getting just like anyone who's faced any sort of discrimination in the gaming space, so mainly women and other genders, like having that protected space for us is so important because it shows that we can have like a better way, a safer way of going about this and not to face like the instant discrimination, the instant harassment. I remember, so my experience on the negative side of things goes back to TF2 and Overwatch. I remember being called like a 14-year-old boy in the game, like all the usual like gender-based discrimination moments, like make me a sandwich, go to the kitchen, all that stuff. Like, so to have a place to play and comfortably to be 100% yourself is really important, and I think that's why Impact and other like women's only like leagues are good because it'll introduce people, like anyone who's like kind of on the edge and interested in getting to know more about like playing competitively. Well, it's like a much easier jump to be like, all right, I'm just going from playing normal to playing competitive. But when you are going from like normal to competitive, let's say in a normal ESEA, the instant discrimination once they find out that you're uh, a woman or, not the majority is just like it creates a much higher barrier to entry.
Right.
So really it's about lowering that barrier to entry, getting more people involved and interested so that you build the next generation of talent. And so that in turn fuels the overall growth of esports in the very, very long big picture aspect. I
I
remember in Overwatch 1, there was like the first um female pro signed to like it was like an all men's team. Like Overwatch didn't have a women's league, but she was the first female signed as a pro, and the amount of like bullshit online was insane.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, and yeah, I mean we see it online all the time, and we most recently saw it happening at the Impact Grand Finals with the Supernova Comets being in the finals as well, and just the weird, ugly hatred that rears its ugly head, right? Like that's what's so
Hmm.
strange is like there's a level of banter to these games that's like, especially when you go to LAN, you realize how important that is to the like psychological factor of the game. But when you're like taking that banter, like it's not banter anymore when you're making that person feel less than as a human. Like that's not banter anymore. That's hate speech and not welcome. Like that's, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's it's
there's a
bizarre.
line between banter and like actual hate speech. So like I know on LAN everybody or most people would like to there's a psychological aspect to playing on LAN that isn't online. And that's just like a huge next step for a lot of people. But it in order to sorry, let me go back to the original point. The banter and things that are banter versus not banter is like banter is about like the game in the moment, the vibes, the energy, right?
Right.
The not banter is anything that is a targeted negative remark about something about that person. So like remarks about people's bodies, like remarks about things that they cannot literally change that have nothing to do with the game.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that as long as it is game related, and banter can get heated, like it can get heated and loud, and it can be, but
Mhm.
as if you're keeping it about the game, like it's like, okay, well there's some like respect being shown there, right? But the moment you make it about somebody's body or background or lifestyle choices or anything outside of the game, like you said, it's like, nope, that's the line in the sand. It's not hard to recognize. It's pretty easy. Just be a decent person and make it about the game. They had a stupid play and you want to yell at them about it, fine. That's all part of it. But uh you know, yeah. Well, and I also like to think that like something like impact within Counter-Strike isn't necessarily like a ceiling by any means, right? Like I know the Supernova Comets, their end goal isn't playing at Impact Grand Finals and feeling like there we go, we did it. It's like they are continuing to try to grind VRS points, but the impact space is like you said, it's that safe space where you can get the reps in to like play real competition. So I
Yes.
yeah, I
Mhm.
I I agree that it's very important. I had probably the most amazing follow-up question here, Viv, but
Mhm.
it's flown out of my head now. Um,
Hopefully you'll get it back in a bit.
hopefully we'll get it back. But I mean, this is what I was gonna ask you. I mean, it was really interesting hearing like all the different games that you've played over the years to like end up at Counter Strike. Do you still go back to any of those other games, or is it now that you've landed on the best one of all time, it's there's no looking back?
So TF2, I've occasionally gone back, more so before than now. But TF2 really took a turn for the worse, like around the time that I left, and when every time that I went back, it was more of the same or worse. So what had happened was the first thing that alienated a lot of their community was when TF2 created the like competitive like ranked section. Um so before it was mainly, so you have like obviously
Those
your
server
community lobbies,
browsers.
like the server browser and the like main like matchmaking I guess browser, but TF2 didn't have like a ranked matchmaking I guess, and
Right.
so when they introduced ranked, people got really upset. I can't remember exactly uh why, but I can imagine where ranked TF2 would be difficult to play because you have 9 classes, they're not exactly balanced against each other in the right ways, and people sometimes just want to jump in and play the class that they want to play, like the character that they want to play. Um and it like things were not very balanced for the extremely competitive style. Like you cannot like face it style TF2 because the amount of times that people could potentially pick a class just to troll each other, to troll their own teammates is like really high. Um and then the second thing was that TF2 got a huge, like ginormous influx of spin botters, cheaters, hackers, you name it. I think it was like a year or two ago I had jumped into TF2 just to check like in the regular servers just to see what it was like, and I couldn't even get out of spawn. I was just being instantly headshot from across the map by some snipers sitting over the way. Like all the way across the other side of the map. I don't know, like the bullet literally isn't supposed to go that far, but they had every hack available to make it possible. It's just straight blatant spin butters, and that was the state of TF2 then. I don't know about like right now this year how that's going, if they've um actually like reduced that by any, but it is, if I'm not mistaken, TF2 is another game like CS run by Valve. So it
Yes.
is it draws some parallels to CS in that aspect where the cheating cheaters are getting out of hand. I would say CS is a lot safer in the cheating because like for the most part the really blatant ones at least are not in the game. And then um oh, I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, that's kind of it. The cheaters were getting insane and CS is like mild compared to the amount of cheating in TF2.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard a statistic, and this is sometime in the last 10 years, so who knows if it's still real, but uh, that Counter Strike is the most cheated multiplayer game in history, which I would believe, but like, as much of a problem as we have with Counter Strike compared to other active games, the like games like Team Fortress 2 are pretty much only played by either people who are only going to play TF2 the rest of their life, the like couple dozen of those people, and cheaters and spin botters that are farming cases and things for selling and whatever reason. So I think, yeah, it's to put it in perspective, it is a lot better in Counter Strike than it could be in some of these other Valve games, because we do know that Valve is very hands off when it comes to their games once they release. And actually, that was going to be my question. How much do you think the responsibility of like cleaning up the community in some of these esports titles lies on the developers that make these games? Like, you have something like Counter Strike where Valve is like totally hands off, and whatever their automated system picks up, great. It doesn't, well, too bad, guys. That's the way she goes. But then you have something on the other end like Riot, where it's like one report or like a couple reports from a lobby, and you could get like a muted ban because people don't like you. I don't think it's that easy, but like you understand the spectrum I'm talking about here. How important? Yeah, does that question make sense?
Yeah, so I found that from talking to the content creators in Limitless that are primarily like Valorant creators, they do still encounter cheaters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess it would be a lot less blatant is the word. And it's as far as how much it's up to the developers, I think the developers of Repo put it the best. I've been watching some of their dev update videos, and they said that, uh, just to summarize, basically, if they were to introduce matchmaking, then um, they would have to be extremely involved in order to keep it a very fair space to like constantly fight cheaters. So they would constantly have to, and then they wouldn't have time to focus on other things, other aspects of the games like skins, like community servers, I don't know, like the modded repo that people are playing right now. Like they have to lock down their development, the code. I'm not entirely sure the technical aspects of developing, but they really have to like lock it down and hone in to devote a lot of their energy in order to make it still feel good to play if they introduce that competitive matchmaking aspect. And I think that really is the responsibility of developers if they're trying to go on that path to making a competitive like aspect to their game.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, there will always be bad actors, so it's never 100%. Even with like the Riot anti cheat that is like kernel based, that's like super invasive, but it's still never 100%. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the Valorant community sentiments are on their cheating problem, but even in other games, like for example, Rocket League, I do hear some discussion about that. There's more cheaters. There are other ways to abuse the game that technically it's like cheating, but it's not like they're like having like aim assist, for example. But I know the Apex and Rocket League community have been hit by a lot of bad actors as well. So just kind of hearing it along the grapevine.
Well, and the more that these games turn into these competitions that get more eyeballs on them and make more money and have higher value, the more bad actors you're gonna invite, right? Like there's there's gonna have to be stricter councils and committees and unions and stuff as and this is obviously decades down the road that these things will all develop, I think, but uh yeah, it's gonna take a lot of time and effort, and there will always be bad actors, especially as we continue to see these things rise in popularity. Um, how much North American Counter Strike do you follow?
I guess you could say I've been following NACS since um for the last 2, 3 years. Anything before that is like ancient history to me. I'm like not aware. Besides like the occasional memes that everyone will like pull back up to reference, like the last NA major and things like that. But I really only know of like the most recent segments. So really just if you want to like narrow it down further, really just CS2 NACS.
Okay, well,
Um
I
and
do have a
only like or mainly like at the ECL advanced level and then the overall like feeling of the community at other levels
this is
and impact of course.
this is perfect. So what do we got to do to fix our shit?
To fix our shit. Okay, so
Where do I start?
where do we start? Like, it's so hard because it it's like what is the goal? I guess you could say the goal is to become like Europe in CS. I know Europe isn't like the biggest in other esports, but it certainly is the biggest in CS. They're kind of like that's where the pinnacle of uh CS2 is. That's where like the metas are being created and defined and changed, and like people are fighting for that, the 0.001% like top recognition. Um and I am aware that NACS has been gutted because of Valorant, because a lot of our talent went to Valorant when that came out. Or the not the top talent, but like the about to be top talent, the
Yeah, our
rising
rising
stars.
stars.
They were supposed to be our next generation, basically. And that's the thing in esports, is like you always need to have the next generation being built up from the ground up. And that's why impact is very important, because it allows women to recognize that like we can do this too. Like it's not a boys club here. It doesn't have to be like, we can also like have women start to fill in the ranks of like making the jump from playing just like the base game into playing a competitive team level. Learning that team based is very, I would say it's a significantly different style of playing. Like from running around in pugs to actually scrimming and learning strats. And so how to fix NACS, I think so it starts with trying to give rise to the next generations. Like it's not gonna be, there's not really a short-term fix for this, because we're trying to make esports last. So you have to build up the foundations for people to climb. You need to build that ladder for people to climb up the rungs. Um, and in order to do that, I think a lot of us, I guess, like the adultier people in the space, um, need to be there to build the ladder for the next generation to climb. So one thing that I saw that came up that was really interesting was, I believe it's Amped, if I'm not mistaken, created a sort of tournament league where they were only looking for teams in the open IM-ish level. And then they would, and that's like, as far as like in like the esports world, that's like the, I guess I hate to say this word, I don't know if there's a better word, but like it's the bottom rungs. It's the mass populace. So like even the people who make that jump to go play open, to start in impact, like that's still like a very base level. It's like the bottom of the pyramid, right? And then like you get to tier 1 at the very top. So you need to build that bottom first. And it's nice that the what Amped is doing with their cup league, I'm not
The
sure
next
what it
gen
is right
cup.
now. Yes, there we go. The next gen cup is, they're building it so that people can go from the bottom of the pyramid to like up further up the pyramid, by having their own events, even though I don't think it's VRS enabled, due to it being just so low in the tiers. But to be able to match some of those like well-performing teams with coaches and mentors to get them up to the next level is just so important. It's the mentorship side of things, right? You need to have a mentor that will guide you up each step. Someone there, like whether it's just like a friend who was at the top that's just like guiding you on your journey, or like actually creating a mentorship program like Amped has done, or I don't know, like having an org provide some financial stability, something along the line to help you keep going. Granted, in order to make it further amongst the very top, there's a bit of luck involved. But there some sort of guidance needs to happen along the way, as we all need in life, to help you keep going, to take the next step, to advance yourself. Some people are prodigies and they are kind of the exception to the norm, and they will just like figure it out for themselves and go all the way up. Um, but most are not the case. It takes a lot of dedication and work, and having that support system along the way goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's like from the bottom up. And then in the middle area where I'll say is the like top IM, main, bottom, advanced sections. I'm not as familiar with. I know a lot of NACS is like roster shuffling and people are upset by that, and yeah, it is. Shuffled rosters do suffer in that aspect, and sometimes these happen because of attitude, and we can't really do much at those levels to change that because it's just too many people to like, yeah, I don't know, give everybody a therapist. Like, but the other thing is like there are people who will fall out of the like climbing the ladder because of outside obligations, and in NA that's actually a really big factor in is just life obligations. Because in Europe it is, to my understanding of just like the socioeconomical side of Europe, is that it is possible for you to have time to pursue your hobbies and you're not like overwhelmed with work or overworked. Granted, if you're in school, it's like a slightly different story. Obviously, you want to like decide whether you focus on your academics or this hobby that you're trying to turn into a career. Um, so that's like a decision to be made. But if you do like get out of the school side and you want to like push the hobby into career side, like you need the financial support once again. So well, a lot of issues come from like, do we have the smaller orgs to support that middle section, so that they can go up? But the thing is, orgs are not without their limits as well. We can't just be like helping everyone willy-nilly from the org side of things, because at the end of the day there are financial consequences, very big financial consequences for them. Like the reasons why orgs get involved in the lower levels is the hopes of one day like being able to somehow make at least break even, is my guess. I'm not very familiar with, but granted, if you have an org, it's basically a company, right? You want to break even at least,
Right.
even if it's like your pet project. Like maybe you're just someone who's really well off, and you're like, I'm making an org, and I'm going to support NACS. Like you don't want to be just endlessly dumping all of your money into that, even if you're like a millionaire.
Right.
There needs to be, it needs to like at least come close to breaking even so that it has more longevity to it. Um, and that you can keep helping and supporting the scene for longer so that the ladder stays there. Um, and what are the other issues that I've seen?
I
So
like
there's
this. You've
like the
got a whole plan.
mentorship, the knowledge, the financial support, backbone. Um, okay, so the elephant in the room that I haven't really talked about is Valve's involvement in all of this. And recently, just very recently, Valve announced that the major is now going to be only invited teams from the top, because they implemented the VRS system, and now you are grinding for your spot at the major by grinding the ranks of VRS system. So if you think about like your VRS ranking points as like I don't know, like your score and chances of making it up there, we don't really have a lot in NA that helps teams in the middle like get up the ladder and keep going. So one issue that I had when the VRS system was announced initially, 2024-ish, when they said that like VRS is what events are expected to go off of now, at the tier 1 and tier 2 events are expected to do. Turning it into a primarily invite only system results in kind of what we saw at the beginning of this year, 2025, which is that anyone who's already made it at the top will keep getting invited back to events, and they'll keep regenerating their points, so they keep staying at the top. But to break into that system is a lot harder, because when you're a lower team that's just like on the cusp of trying to get there, not a lot of events have qualifiers, because qualifiers are not required. That is completely up to the TO if they want to spend the time and money to run a qualifier to get there. So then you just have a lot of teams that are left out of the party. For lack of a better words, like they're not invited to the party, and they have no way of earning an invite to the party, and then we're just stuck. It's very stagnant. And so now we are seeing in 2025, thankfully, a lot of rising like NA tournament organizers. That's what TO stands for, by the way. Tournament organizers in NA, like trying to build tier 2, tier 3 events to help once again like reform the ladder, allow some teams to get back up there. But it's still very difficult because the scale that we have here is not compared to other regions. Like Europe, constant stream of events, so many events. And then Asia, I'm like a little bit far removed from their scene and like the rest of the world. But I guess to my understanding, the Asian scene has a bunch of their own events as well. It's just not shown on HLTV as much because there's like, I don't know, the information isn't really shared across too often. I know the Brazilian, South American scene has a lot of like smaller events as well themselves. And then it goes back down to, well, why can't we have these events? And one main thing that I see is like funding. Like it takes a lot of money to make an event big and worthy enough of a lot of VRS points. Like with I'm trying to remember, it was kind of a charity cup, but also it was a VRS enabled cash cup basically. And the charity aspect like on top of that. But so it's a VRS cash cup, but they HLTV only showed like the finals, the grand finals on HLTV. And what Valve does is they only calculate points based on the matches that are shown on HLTV. So that means we have this like their prize pool was significant for a cash cup, but only the finals were shown, which means only 2 teams had their VRS points impacted by that. That means you literally just cut off everybody else who was in it, and they have been excluded from the party once again.
Right.
So gatekeeping, basically. And why that is, I'm not entirely sure why HLTV made that the cutoff. But it's part of it is, I know some of the factors into like whether or not they will choose to have more matches is like the age experience of the TO in terms of like how many events they've done. So as far as I'm aware, I think that TO may have been their first like CS2 event, so they weren't going to get it. It was like harder for them to get that recognition. The other thing is prize pool, but they definitely had the prize pool. I think it was 5,000 for a total or something like that, which is exactly how much the prize picks and a revival cup is, and for each of their cash cups. So their prize pool was there. And then the third thing, which I didn't really follow because I was away at the time, so I didn't really follow, but the third aspect is the quality of the teams that are in that event. So if you can get so for example, going back to prize picks, if that is the ideal event for bringing teams up, Prize Picks consistently has like the top NA teams competing in it for a 5,000 prize pool. So they have more of those matches being shown simply because of the caliber of the teams. But if you're a rising team, you're not considered of that caliber. So how are you supposed to get in? It's more gatekeeping. So what it really boils down to on this aspect of having the events to go to get your VRS points, to climb the team ladder, to break through to tier 1 or even like top tier 2, is that there's so many levels of gatekeeping. And because of the system that Valve has said that this is the way it is now, I think they need to take responsibility for opening it up more. I don't know what the solution would be, but to remove some of this gatekeeping. Like, obviously, some gatekeeping it's part of the game, right? You're in a pyramid, it narrows to the top, only the top best few can make it. But you can't, it's like too much gatekeeping means that you create a bottleneck, and then you won't replenish the ones at the top, at least not in our region. We're bottlenecking, we're not unable to replenish the top players right now. And if people retire, if like they get traded off to other teams, like we can't fill those spaces fast enough yet. Or if like other teams break down or something like that. So I feel like Valve is responsible to, in some ways, stepping up to remove some of these restrictions so that it opens up the space.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you sharing all that because that's yeah, that's you. By the way, you lied to me. You said you weren't gonna have anything to say about to when I asked you to do this interview, and yet here you are, and you got tons of thoughts. You've got a rich and storied history through esports as well. Uh, yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that because I think one of the important things to getting some of that change happening is these conversations happening within the community and the community giving that push, right? Valve is notorious for giving their community the middle finger when it comes to listening to them, but uh, this whole VRS system and like what they're trying to even Counter Strike 2 in certain ways, and I don't know, over the last several years, Valve definitely feels like they're trying to make some kind of change and commitment to Counter Strike because they do recognize this thing is gonna last a very long time if they put in like a pretty minimal amount of effort, it feels like. So um yeah, I hope they continue to listen and make change. I only have two more questions here for you though, and then we'll wrap up the yap session, and you're always welcome back if you've got more thoughts about things. These are the last two questions I ask everybody. Where does your name come from, Vivid Dark FPS?
Cool.
Does it have
Let's
anything
see.
to do
There's
with
a
Perfect Dark?
No, I do not know that name.
You don't know Perfect
Um,
Dark?
no, I do not.
Oh man.
Is that another
And
CS player or something?
no, Perfect Dark was the back when Rareware. I'm gonna take you back in time here. Back when Rareware made GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64 in the 90s, they shortly after made a follow-up FPS game that was their own IP, original IP called Perfect Dark, and it was an FPS as well. So, just wondering if it had anything to do with that.
No, not at all, actually. Um, let's see. Vivid Dark, I guess just to like backtrack, before Vivid Dark, it was Dark Guardian. So that was what like my Overwatch people might know me by. And then before that, it was Guardian. So
The Opper?
I
You're the
just kind of
Opper?
no.
Just kidding.
Yeah, that's what everyone in CS was like, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I gotta like change it because I don't actually know enough CS lore to like keep Guardian's name, I guess, in my tag. Not that like once a name is out there, it like has to be only that person, but I was like, I don't. In fact, I actually suck with the op. I like absolutely hate using the op. So,
You and me both.
so I was like, yeah, let's just change it for CS and then to make it a bit more content, I guess, targeted. And I realized that I wasn't going to be CS only, so it couldn't just be Vivid Dark CS. So I was like, I guess it would just be Vivid Dark FPS because I will be trying to dabble in other FPS games if they come across. So like I've played Valorant with the Valorant content creators. I've played some Overwatch with my friends in my Overwatch 2 with friends in my free time. Like occasionally gone back to check in on TF2. Um so I will like go and try other FPS games, but I guess I've just been mainly in the CS space, like only CS for quite some time now. So I guess it
Well,
could have been Vivid Dark CS.
it could have been. Well, we're glad you're here because it's a pretty damn cool spot to be, and I know you do a lot of just listening to what I've known you for almost a year now, just through and met you at LAN a couple of times. I know you do a lot of. I know you and I don't interact much outside of when we do bump into each other, but I know you do a lot for the scene, and having people like yourself is just really good for the support system, like you're talking about. It's nice to be able to talk about the support system and have people actually putting forth their efforts toward it. So. Okay, this is my last question for you here, and then we'll do a big loud shout out for plugs, whatever you want to talk about at the end. Uh, so this is just give some general. If you could talk to a younger version of yourself, if you could talk to like the next generation, give some general life advice of any kind. This is your opportunity to get on a soapbox and really preach to the world. It can be Counter Strike related. It can be esports related. In anything that you want. Don't eat yellow snow, something like that. Whatever you want to talk about, this is your opportunity to do so.
Man, life advice? I feel like I need life advice. uh, I'm like at that stage where I'm like juggling and figuring things out. I guess the advice for anyone who's just trying to figure things out, like when you're younger, just try a bunch of things. Try anything. Uh, like literally just, shoot your shot if you want to try to build networking. Like, just it's easier said than done, but if you're like anxious and stuff, sometimes just like send that cold DM, send that cold email, like go do that thing that you wanted to do potentially. Maybe you're like, oh, maybe I could like really enjoy this, but I don't know. Like, if you just dip your toes in the water a little, you could be a little scared and you're like, oh shit, it's cold. But if you just like take that plunge and like really invest yourself into it and be like, all right, right now I'm gonna like have, I don't know, a month and I'll like really commit myself to doing XYZ, then it can take you a lot further. Like you can, immediately realize by going in deep, like whether or not that thing is for you. So yeah, just do it. Wait, that's Nike. Hang
Hang on,
on.
we're not sponsored by Nike.
Yeah, just take
Give
the
it a
plunge.
try. Yeah,
Give it a
take the
shot.
plunge.
Like shoot your shot. Like, yeah. You never know what'll happen. Maybe it'll be amazing. Maybe you'll find out it's not for you and that is still amazing because it's better to know than to like not know and to live with all the doubts. So,
That is correct. We've had somebody before say that try to live without regrets. So I think that's a very good sentiment. All right, well, Vivid Dark FPS, if that is your real name, why don't you give us some plugs here about whatever you're working on, where to find you, where people can follow you. We got several dozen viewers nowadays, so You know, we're getting there. It's several dozen people that always actually care about Counter Strike and actually care about these videos. So it does mean a lot to like put these videos out for those people that care. So where can those people find you?
Absolutely. So I'll be mainly in the CS aspect of things. I'm on Twitter. VividDarkFPS is my handle, and that's kind of my main thing these days. I'm kind of like went on a slight social media purge, or like unlinking a bunch of things. So I think that's just the main thing is VividDarkFPS on Twitter. And then if you want, you can hop in my Discord and we can chat more about any of these things. I would love to like open it up and hear what other people are feeling. You can also email me if you have any like business related ideas, because um, I think now that I've taken a bit of a step back from content creating solely, but I'm focusing more on trying to create tier 2 tournaments, especially ones that will have VRS points, to help us build the NACS scene back up again at that like breaking into tier 2 level, and like supporting the teams that are already there at tier 2 to try to like help them on their journey into tier 1 and getting those invites to like the big events. So if anyone wants to have an event that is VRS enabled, sponsors, you know where to find me. My email is on my Twitter at VividDarkFPS. Um, and yeah, I look forward to working with anybody. I look forward to having conversations about how to improve the space. Um, I love seeing all these little new TOs also jump into the space as well. So glad to have y'all here. I'm very well read up on the VRS rules, and I like planning things and creating events. So yeah, I've had a few cash cups of my own now. Would love to do more.
Okay, we're gonna I'm gonna cut this off here and we'll have a chat about some tournaments then. But thank you very much for joining me, Viv. And very last question: will we see you at Frag 19 in Windsor?
Ooh, Frag 19. Wait, that is July.
Yeah, it's happening here in
Wait,
a few
it's
weeks, July 17th
it
through 20th.
I believe it'll depend on my class schedule, because I have started like taking classes again on working on other aspects of life. It'll depend on my class schedule and how things line up. So we'll see. Maybe.
You never know.
If
All right.
not, I'll be cheering from the sidelines on stream. So
Hell yeah. So you'll see her in the stream at the very least. All right.
at
Well,
the very least.
thank you so much for joining. And that is